What does cleaner air sound like? Or the sound of Californians coming together? Protecting our environment begins with a text. Join the movement of Californians saving energy at home, and together we can take on climate change. Text JOIN to 72222 to join the Keep It Golden movement.
Paid for by Energy Upgrade California. Keep it golden.
Calling all cookie lovers.
The nation's best cookies have come to Turlock, Elk Grove, and Lodi. That's right, the nation's best cookies. Don't believe it? Try them yourself at California's newest Crumble cookie stores, located in Turlock, Elk Grove, and the newest location in Lodi. The menu changes weekly. Until Saturday, enjoy Biscoff White Chip, Cookies Cream Milkshake, Neapolitan and Classic Peanut Butter, and Orange Julius Sugar Cookie. Order for delivery, curbside pickup, or visit us in-store Monday through Saturday. All made fresh daily.
For decades, first responders and firefighters at military bases and airports used a chemical-based foam to fight fires. Studies have shown that chemicals used to make aqueous film-forming foam, or AFFF, are highly toxic to humans and have been associated with several types of cancer. If you or someone you know was exposed to AFFF and were diagnosed with any of these cancers, including kidney, bladder, prostate, pancreatic, lymphoma, leukemia, testicular, and neuroendocrine, then you should call us immediately because you may be entitled to significant cash compensation. Call us at 800-516-3398. Our experienced attorney will fight to get you the compensation you deserve, and you pay nothing unless we get a recovery in your favor. Time is limited to file a claim, so call us now, 800-516-3398. What if we told you that you could get all these benefits and more for 40% less per month than what the other guys are charging? In these hard economic times, we have auto insurance for accidents, but when unexpected repair bills hit, our biggest expenses can be our cars. So why overpay for an auto warranty? If you own a car, truck, or SUV made from 2000 to today, you can stop paying for covered repairs. That's right, bumper-to-bumper coverage with maintenance included. Call now to find out if your car qualifies. 800-973-2940. Already have an auto warranty? No problem. Call us and we'll help you save instantly. Call today to get your car protected before your next repair bill hits. And ask about our free roadside assistance. 800-973-2940. Doug.
Check it out, Limu. A roadside carnival.
Step right up, folks. Test your strength. Come see the fire-breathing baby.
Let's fan out and tell people that Liberty Mutual customizes your car insurance so you only pay for what you need.
Look! An emu wearing sunglasses!
Limu, you're famous. Only pay for what you need.
Liberty, 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 liberty.
Welcome to the show. My name is Charlton with Big C. This is Charlton and Big C Sports. Coming to you worldwide on the Big C Sports Network, on the #1 network in the United States of America. And Big C Sports has been voted the #1 sports show in the universe, according to Big C. And them good old boys down south, I want to say bienvenidos to all of our listeners in Latin America, also across the pond, and London, England, as well as Paris, France. Of course, we love you in Canada and Africa, the Big C tribe. But there's no one we love more than the good old boys down south. In the land of the free and the home of the brave on a beautiful July the 12th, 2021. Bondo Deportes, bonjour, Big C. The Vidi Vidi Vici. How's it going for you good old boys down south?
Well, Charlton, we're doing pretty good. We're kind of disappointed that the All-Star game just moved to Colorado this week. But, you know, the home run derby is tonight. Shohei Ohtani is getting hot. He did his 33rd home run of the season going into this break. So it should be an exciting night at the home run derby. But once again, I want to thank our frontline healthcare workers, our nurses, doctors, and first responders. They'll be there if anybody gets hit with one of those foul balls.
They sure will, Big C. They sure will. I got Big C back. I think Big C he was doing the Big C Sports Show from the bathroom from 3,000 miles away. You remind me of Jackie Gleason, Big C, and Smokey the Bandit when he came out of the bathroom and he has a toilet tissue on his foot. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, no, Charlton, some of us got hot tubs and we like to spend time in them, so I like to get out of the water so I can get a clear signal.
Hot Tub Thomas Hemon, Big C Sports is all fair and love it. Where I want to say today's show is sponsored by your Northern California Cadillac dealers, home of the all-new Cadillac Escalade, the standard of the world. And when you go by and test drive yours, tell them Charlton and Big C sent you, as well as a fleet of Cadillac cars never stop arriving. Also, all around the world, just say Google or Alexa Play Big C Sports Podcast. You will hear from our sponsors. You will hear, welcome to the show. I will introduce Big C as the Mystic from 3,000 miles away even when he's in the bathroom when he'll do his thing, and I really do appreciate the way things are grown with Big C Sports. You can follow Big C Sports on Spotify. You can follow Big C Sports on Xfinity, Comcast TV, Apple TV, Roku TV, Amazon Fire TV, and a lot of smart TVs all over the universe. But you better have a smart TV. Oh, you'll be sitting there looking at a still picture. Man, I love pausing, Big C. Pausing is good, and I will never pause on our Veterans Crisis Hotline because they are really experienced helping veterans and their loved ones get help. Big C, more people are doing it from sea to shining sea. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, as we think about the plight of our veterans in this country on a day-to-day basis, it would be nice if American society could pay as much attention to the plight of our veterans as they do to the All-Star finals that are going on right now in Colorado and the NBA finals that are going on in Milwaukee, Charlton. We lose over 24 veterans a day to suicide because these veterans suffer in many ways, emotionally, physically, financially. And there's no end in sight that they can see. And unfortunately, it has led to suicide amongst too many of them, Charlton. We as a country have to pay as much attention to our veterans as we do the sports that go on in our country because our veterans gave us the freedom to play these sports and watch these sports in this country.
Amen.
We give out the National Suicide Prevention Hotline number, Charlton, but we need all Americans to pay attention to what's going on with mental health around them and those that are distant from them because that is the major cause of suicide in America. So ask someone how they're doing. Do they need to have a conversation? Not just thank you for your service, but can I help you in any kind of way, Charlton?
Very well said. Reach out and touch somebody's hand. I think the great Roberta Flack said that all you got to do is pick up the phone and call 800-273-8255. That's 800-273-8255. Or you can text 838-255. That's 838-255. If you're online, simply go to veteranscrisisline.net. That's veteranscrisisline.net. You can definitely get some help for our veterans and their loved ones. Also, very happy to be affiliated with Valley Homes Weekly TV on Dish TV, DirecTV, AT&T Uverse, TV 53, home of the first place San Francisco Giants, and the home run king, as well as the Say Hey Kid is all fair and level war. When you reach out to them, just tell them Big C sent you. Our goal is simple: recruit 10,000 real estate agents and brokers all over this great country to help put people back to work, just like McDonald's does it. Car dealerships do it, sports teams are doing it. Watch TV and real estate work for you. 800-772-8624. If you're looking for opportunities in real estate, go to bigcsports.pacwm.com. Most of our loans are underwritten by Rocket Mortgage, the #1 lender in the country on the wholesale side. When you want to get a loan, don't just be sure, be Rocket Sure. It's all fair and love and war. I also want to say thank you to Xfinity Comcast TV and Comcast Spotlight for presenting Big C Sports to the universe, just like in Genesis 1:3. God said, let there be light. Open your cell phones and say it. Play Big C Sports Podcast. You will see all of our apps pop up from all over the world, and I really do appreciate the way things have grown with Big C Sports. I also want to say this show is sponsored by your Budweiser Zero. 0% alcohol, 100% on your game. It's all fair and love and war. It goes great with the Big C burger. It is a tasty burger, and it comes with exotic meats. So, Big C, I want to get back to you because my favorite show, or one of my favorite shows, my top 10 shows, everyone should see Smokey and the Bandit. The late Burt Reynolds, the late Jackie Gleason, and Sally Fields. Big C is about this Firebird Trans Am by Pontiac, and I don't know why they don't bring that car back. They brought back so many of the cars. I know Pontiac's out of business, but somebody could have bought it. But there was a scene where Jackie Gleason was looking for guys that do what you do on this site, Big C, and he went to the restroom and he ate the Big C burger, Big C. But when he came out, he had some toilet paper stuck to his backside, and they said, "What are you chasing, bank robbers?" He said, "Bank robbers are baby blop compared to these guys." And he had the toilet paper on him, Big C. That thought.
Well, Charlton, you got to always remember to look at your surroundings when you're out in public to know where the exit is.
Yeah, it's all fair and level where I love Smokey and the Bandit, and also that scene where they had that black sheriff down south, and he said, "You sound a lot taller on the radio, Big C, you're done."
Well, Charlton, I mean, it was a movie that was full of satire and dog whistles. It was part of that era of the 70s.
Yeah, it was funny, man. I love being able to laugh about things, and it's all fair and love and war. I want to say anybody, Big C Sports platform is really, really growing. We always start out with welcome to the show that a lot of people are using too, and that's fine. It's all fair and love and war. Available to millions on podcast, radio show hosts. Big C, former All-Pro football players, 40 years of sports TV and radio broadcasting experience. Also, Charlton, a broadcaster with 30 years experience, TV and radio, and winner of a Bay Area Broadcast Excellence Award. I think we really are the best sports talking show and entertainment in the universe. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, we try to bring our part to society and the world every day to give them a different perspective of all sports when they listen to us.
Yeah.
And even some life perspective during that time also.
Yeah, like Smokey and the Bandit. He had some light perspective. Big C is all. He wasn't using Charmin. He was using some cheap type of homemade toilet paper. It sticks to his hands. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, it stuck to every part of him, though.
He was like sticking for the Oakland Rays. The Oakland Rays, the great Lester Hayes. I want to, before we even start our show, you know, everybody has this thought that if you give me some money, then I'll help you. There was a song called "For the Love of Money," for the love of money, and about people gotta have it. I think it was by the OJs back in the day. And there are times when God gives you a talent or gives you a clue, and you meet people, and everybody says, "Give me some money, and then I will teach you how to get what you already have." And I just tell people, like in Genesis 1:3, God says, "Let there be light. Let there be light on everything that you're doing," as we're trying to shine with Big C Sports. But I want people to think about this. Before we talk about sports, we talk about our first responders, and everybody wants to piggyback on what other people are saying. Big C Show, the Big C Sports Show, is the only show that does 0 teleprompters, 0 scripts. There's nobody in our ears telling us what to think or how to say things. All they can do is copy it. And I appreciate some of the guys on the sports universe talking about the football universe. But Big C, what is the definition of manifestation? Like in Genesis 1:3, God said, "Let there be light," and light appeared. The manifestation is the act or process or an instance of manifesting things. Something that manifests, it means that it's an outward or visible expression, but no one knows it until it actually comes to fruition. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, you have to be alert at all times, Charlton, to recognize what's around you, and that's what will manifest.
Yeah, I heard a broadcaster one time saying, you got to believe, you got to believe, you got to believe. Don't worry about what people say to you. There are a lot of people that want to be on your team when you make it. When you're not on your team, or if they don't think you've made it yet, then they kind of avoid you. It's all fair and love and war. Go ahead and make your dreams come true, no matter what anybody says. But Google the word manifestation. It's something I'm working on, and it's coming to fruition as we speak. Big C, speaking of manifestation, we have no baseball games today, but we do have this baseball all-star game. It's going to be played in the beautiful city of Denver, Colorado. And I know for one of the best players in the baseball universe, the great Shohei Ohtani, he's been named the American League starting pitcher. And Big C, he's also the American League's leadoff hitter. That's never happened, in my opinion. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, no, it's never happened, Charlton. He's gone to an area that no baseball player has ever gone before. He has set a precedent in the modern era of baseball, Charlton, to be a dominant pitcher as well as a dominant player at the plate. You know, leading the major leagues in home runs with 33. You know, he has a winning record as a starting pitcher in Major League Baseball, Charlton. What happened with Shohei Ohtani this season after coming back from Tommy John surgery last year has never been done in the history of baseball. Not even Babe Ruth has gone to this area that Shohei Ohtani is in.
Yeah, he really has. I also want to get a shout out to Chula, a tattoo artist, company piercer. A lot of athletes use tattoos, especially in the world of MMA, so wishing them nothing but the best. Told them I give them a shout out on Big C Sports. It's all fair and love and war. But when we talk about manifestation, and there's so many people that want to be something. They want to be something that they don't have now. It's like speak things that be not as though they were is a spiritual thing. But how did Shohei Ohtani, from Tommy John's to being named the starting pitcher and the leadoff hitter, how did he manifest that? Because he wasn't top of the mind last year once he was undergoing the surgery. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, when you're not playing, you're not at the top of anybody's mind. But he was a dominant pitcher when he came to the U.S. from Japan. That was the major reason why they bought him to the Angels, Charlton. And he's always been good at the plate. His career has escalated this year with his precision around the mound, Charlton, hitting the ball. I mean, he's gone to that area that no one has really expected, but he worked on his craft when he was out. You know, that vision, that coordination when he was down with the surgery, Charlton. He worked on all those things on a daily basis. When you become an elite athlete, a lot of that is natural, but a lot of it is persistence, Charlton. And as you talked about manifest, So he's manifested himself into what he has become.
Yeah.
The best player right now in Major League Baseball.
Yeah, he's the best player in the universe. When you think about Major League All-Star Game set for Tuesday at a beautiful Denver, Colorado's Coors Field, and everybody has their own opinion about how do you become, the greatest player at whatever you're doing in life. If you look at the greatest player in football, I'm still going to say it was Jerry Rice. Some people say Jim Brown. I mean, it's a pretty small role.
I'd have loved to see Jerry Rice try to play in the 70s and 80s, and how many times he'd have left the field with the assistance of the team managers, Charlton, the athletic, physical staff, medical staff.
Yeah, the reason a lot of guys got CTE is because they didn't have the same intelligence to keep people safe, and that's why I think Jerry Rice would be the greatest, and maybe Jim Brown would have played better too. But back to the All-Star game, we learned exactly about starting lineups. How did Shohei Ohtani manifest this? We have a lot of young people in life. They want to manifest something. They want to start a talk show. They want to start a TV show. Big C Sports has both on podcast and also TV. But the Angels two-way superstar, listen up, people that follow Big C Sports all over the world. Big C, he's going to start on the mound for the American League, also a leadoff bat for the American League, and the hitter against the National League starting lineup, Max Scherzer. Now, Scherzer got lit up down in San Diego against the great Fernando Tatis Jr. and those Padres. They were down 8-0. And I don't know if it's good to take a guy that just got shellacked in California and then put him up against California's best player, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, what happens in the regular season and All-Star game are two different things. You're not expecting to go more than an inning and a half to 2 innings in the All-Star game. So you go out there and throw lights out. You're not trying to save yourself like you are during a regular season game.
Yeah, it's all fair and love and war. I know it's going to be a great show. And for people, we've missed so much with COVID. We're going to see, and I hope we're going to have a loud, raucous crowd. Big C, the ball does fly far at Coors Field. When you hear the pitch, hit deep. It hits deep in Coors Field, and it's all fair and love and war. When you think about this game, when he's going to be the two-way starter, and it's not even about ego. He's not even the highest paid player on his team. Mike Trout is, but he's on the men right now. But even when Mike Trout is healthy, he doesn't attract people to the bat or to the TV screen, or even the radio, Big C, the great Shohei Ohtani does, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, Shohei Ohtani has a long way to go, Charlton, to accomplish what Mike Trout has done. You're talking about a guy who's had 1 year of excellence versus a guy who's had 10 years of it in the major leagues. Mike Trout is a 3-time MVP. Shohei Ohtani has not won it 1 time. So his accolades and his credentials are nowhere near what Mike Trout's are. He's the star of the moment. Mike Trout has been the star of the decade.
I think he's a manufactured Trout star, but that's just my opinion. He's not even the best player in Southern California. That's Mookie Betts last year with the Los Angeles Dodgers. So I'm not knocking Mike Trout. He got a big contract. Nothing's wrong with that. But I wish everybody the best. Dave Roberts of the defending World Champion Series, Los Angeles Dodgers, he's going to manage the National League. And when you think about the Tampa Bay Rays, cast of the Tampa Bay Rays is going to manage the American League. Roberts is still managing the NL team. Big C, for a 3rd consecutive All-Star game, that shows you the success that the LA Dodgers have had at Chavez Ravine. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, they've had success, but they only have 1 World Series to show for that. So, that means a lot also.
Yeah, but they've been in the World Series, and it's better to love and have failed at love than to never love at all. They've been in the World Series, even if they lost it. Like, people fall in love. Sometimes you fall out of love. It's all fair and love and war. And just a couple of starters in the National League All-Star lineup: Fernando Tatis Jr., Big C, for the Padres, Max Muncy for the Dodgers. You have Nolan Arenado for the Cardinals, Big C, Freddie Freeman for the Atlanta Braves. Man, I feel bad about what happened with their superstar for the Atlanta Braves, who was going to be in this game. Nick Castellanos for the Reds, Jesse Winker for the Reds, and you have JT Realmuto, Big C, for the Phillies, Brian Reynolds for the Pirates, and Adam Frazier for the Pirates. But give me your thoughts on Ronald Acuna Jr. I mean, he was like Shohei Ohtani. He's must-see, but then he has to obviously go through the rehab of the injury. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, I mean, everyone thought at the beginning of the season he would be a 40-40 player, Charlton.
Yeah.
He was on track to do that, but, injuries will knock anybody out of a sport.
Yeah, and just like every other player that's dealing with injuries, Acuna can just look at Shohei Ohtani. Look at Kevin Durant. A lot of guys have been on the men, and then they come right back and they play again. And then you have the starting lineup for the American League, Big C, the All-Stars. Shohei Ohtani is just, to me, he's a designated hitter for the Angels. Vladimir Guerrero Jr. for the Blue Jays, first baseman. Xander Bogaerts, Big C, He's a shortstop for the Red Sox. The great Aaron Judge for the right fielder for the Yankees. Will he even be a Yankee after we get out of this month of July, Big C? Your thoughts?
Well, the thing about Aaron Judge is that he's having a problem hitting the ball, and he's a fan favorite that got into the All-Star game based on that.
Yeah, he's always a fan favorite no matter where he goes. And I wish everybody nothing but the best. It's all fair in love and war when you look at these guys. You also, Rafael Devers, Big C, for the Red Sox. The Red Sox have been like setting the world on fire, and they're a team that, I mean, at the end of it all, I wouldn't be surprised to see them challenging in the AL, but I know we're pretty far away from that, Big C. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, baseball, we're just at the halfway point of the season, Charlton. Any team can get hot, any team can slump.
Yep, any team can get hot and slump. Salvador Perez for the Royals and Toscar Hernandez for the Blue Jays, Big C. Cedric Mullins is a center fielder for the Baltimore Orioles, and they do need some great things to happen there. And then, starting pitcher Shohei Ohtani for the Angels. This, no matter what happens with his performance, this is definitely a game where Jacob deGrom, when he saw that Shohei Ohtani was going to be pitching, Big C, Jacob deGrom said, I think my hamstring tightened up, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, Jacob deGrom was sitting around Charlton being the highest paid pitcher in baseball, knowing that he could take some time off and rest and try to get the Mets on a second half run of the season.
Yeah, it's amazing. If the Yankees are tanking and the Mets are rising, that shows that sometimes the universe spins backward, if that makes sense to the people in the Big Apple. But I wish everybody nothing but the best for the All-Star game and the festivities. I know for the NBA All-Star game, I've always loved when the NBA has the three-point shootout competition. Not so much for the skills competition. I mean, seeing guys run up and down the court and then shoot a basketball through the rim. You can see that on a school playground, but you rarely see guys jumping over cars. The great Blake Griffin or hanging through the rim like the great Vince Carter doing their thing, Big C. This ball, hitting the ball, hit deep in Major League Baseball All-Star Game. Is that the appeal to you, Big C? Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, when you think about the home run derby in baseball, it's more pure than the antics that go on at an NBA dunk contest, because it's all about something that you're not going to do during the game.
Yeah.
When you look at an all-star home run contest, this is what you do during the game. You can hit the ball that distance. Those dunks you see with the props in an all-star basketball game, Charlton, don't exist in reality.
No, wait a minute. Vince Carter hanging through the hoop. I saw that with my own two eyes in Oakland, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, you might have saw that hanging through the hoop, but he's not going to do that in the game, Charlton. You're not going to see anybody jump over a car in the game. You're not going to see anybody jump over two players in the game. You're not going to see somebody just have a free run and go throw the ball off the backboard, Charlton, or bounce it real high off the floor to grab it and do a 360. Those things are stunts. They're not actually part of the game.
Yeah, it's amazing, though. That dunk won the contest, and Michael Jordan jumping from the free throw line won the contest. I love what Mike was doing, but the Vince Carter dunk was a lot better than the gliding through the air. But, Michael Jordan's on the bottom of a tennis shoe. Vince Carter doesn't have himself hanging on the bottom of anybody's tennis shoes to be walked on. Big C, your thoughts?
Charlton, there's been many dunks in the All-Star game. Those are some good dunks. There's been dunks that have been better than what both of those players have been produced over the years. But you remember certain dunks because of players' names.
Yeah, is there a dunk that Big C would say that would be the best dunk in the All-Star game? Universe, Big C, your thoughts?
Well, I saw a dunk with Darnell Hillman years ago, Charlton, and I also saw one with Larry Nance. I've never seen anybody do them better than those two dunks.
Yeah, it's all fair in love and war. I saw the best dunk I ever saw with my son when he turned 11 years old. He was able to dunk on me in the backyard, and he never lets me forget it. It's all fair in love and war. My favorite dunker of the universe. I'm going to tell you just to run down real quick before the All-Star break, and everybody has their opinion on who the best players are, who's making the most money, who's playing to get into the AL and the NL championship. But number one right now in the universe, sometimes things, they're just like they were in the past. Los Angeles Dodgers, when it comes to Major League Baseball power rankings, going into the game, the All-Star break, the Los Angeles Dodgers are number one. And sometimes they're up and sometimes they're down. But no one can really say that the Dodgers are not among the top 2 or 3 teams in baseball, Big C. Your thoughts?
Yeah, they don't even have the best record in their division. We're at a halfway point in the season right now, Charlton. If somebody goes on an 8 to 10 game slump like the Dodgers did early in the year where they lost 14 in succession, they're going to be out of the running. Yeah,
but if I hit all 6 numbers in the Mega Millions, that's $100 million, Big C. It's all based on problematics, and they're probably one of the top 2 or 3 teams in baseball. Number 2 that a lot of people didn't think about, the Houston Astros. Them good old boys came in with a lot of vitriol. People were taking pictures and taking photographs of the Houston Astros and saying, you guys are cheaters, you guys are cheaters. They're like, GRU, and you know I'm going to cheat. I'm from Texas, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, like I said, Charlton, we're at a point because we're at All-Star break.
Yeah.
If you look at the records of the teams and how the standings go right now, you cannot say in a month that everybody's going to be in the same position.
Yeah.
So baseball, like I said, when we look at the power rankings, what are the power rankings based on? It's based on a fanfare of someone's speculation. It's not all about the reality of the numbers when you sit there and look at the rankings in the division.
Yeah, well, it's all fair and level where people like to keep score. They don't just get to the last game of the season and say who the best is. Number three.
But if you're basing it on rankings of somebody's thoughts, wouldn't you take the power rankings based on the record and say that that's the best team? Because normally that's what your record projects. You're the best team at that point. If you have the most wins versus someone else, then that would make you the number one. And like I said, the Giants are the number one winningest team in the NL West.
Yeah.
And they're not in the top two as far as what you said.
Yeah, but everybody has an opinion. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers won the Super Bowl. They did not have the best record. They were a road team. They were an underdog on the road, and they ended up beating the team in the NFL with the best record.
It's more about what you said. These are the opinions of who the best teams, not based on the rank.
Yeah, of course it's an opinion. It's not set in stone. I mean, there's an opinion, and everybody has an opinion. That's part of what makes sports, Big C. It's all fair, love, and war.
But to make the playoffs in sports,
yeah,
wouldn't it be based on record instead of opinion?
I think you got to just take a pause and realize media is made up of different opinions. Just like ranking somebody as an Oscar Award winner is based on opinions.
I understand that, but I'm just asking a question. If the playoffs were to start today, would it be based on the records or based on the opinions?
It would be most likely based on records unless your college football is based on the opinion. It depends on the system, Big C.
But we're talking about baseball.
Yeah, but it's still an opinion. I mean, it's all based on opinion. A ball or a strike is based on opinion. If someone's safer out of base, it's based on an opinion. If someone has a foul or not a foul in the three-point play, it's all based on opinion. If someone has a technical foul in basketball, everything's based on opinion. Even what you think about is based on opinion. And it's just your opinion and everybody has one. But for the city by the bay and the San Francisco Giants in the most beautiful ballpark, in my opinion, in the universe, everybody loves going to San Francisco. No more than to see Buster Posey, and if they can get away from those seagulls that are coming after their french fries, Big C, your thoughts?
Well, I mean, you got not worry about your french fries. You got to worry about what's dropping on top of your head.
Sometimes they want to decorate your french fries for you. It's all fair and level war. Number 4, the Boston Red Sox. Them good old boys in green, I guess they call it the Green Monster. It should be called the Green Blessing because they're getting a lot of blessings playing at that stadium, Big C, your thoughts?
Well, I mean, it's a beautiful atmosphere in Boston. The Red Sox are not under the radar this year. The players have been responding. They got a new manager, Charlton, and they've delivered.
Yeah, they have delivered. The San Diego Padres, number 5, going into the All-Star break with the great Fernando Tatis Jr. This is a good team that has a legitimate case for they got to win it on the field. It doesn't matter what somebody thinks. But they have 3 of the top 5 teams, opinion-wise, and that's what life's made up of, opinions. They're all out of the National League West, Big C, your thoughts?
Well, I mean, like I said, you get all these teams out of the West and they all can't make the playoffs.
Yeah.
So, the opinions of what somebody feels versus the reality of what the records will say at the end of the year are what the factors are really determined on is the record at the end of the year.
Yeah. Well, it's all fair and love and war. That's what I love about this game. The Phoenix Suns, they're in the NBA Finals. They don't have the best record in the NBA. The Milwaukee Bucks, they're in the NBA Finals. They don't have the best record. It's all fair and love and war. Chicago White Sox, number 6. And I really appreciate this guy, the great Tony La Russa. He's a dog lover, Big C, and he really does love dogs with a lot of people dealing with SPCA issues. But here's one of the oldest managers that have had the same kind of success. I mean, maybe Bobby Cox down in the South back in the day rivaled what Tony La Russa is doing, Big C. But Billy Martin way back in the day. But he's shown that he's taken his act from Oakland to St. Louis, and now the Windy City, no matter where he goes, wins always follow the great Tony La Russa, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, we got the Chicago White Sox, the winningest team in the American League. You got the San Francisco Giants, the winningest team in the National League, and neither one of them are in the top 2. It's subjective when you look at the power rank.
Yeah, I remember Usain Bolt, the fastest runner in the universe. He rarely crossed the 50-yard mark or the 50-meter mark in first place. He always finished in first place, but you can't look at how somebody is along the way. You just kind of figure them out, and at the end of the day, you call him. I remember working with the great Tom Hammond. He was doing the United States Olympic trials back in 2000, and they had a guy in the press box that everybody knows by the name of Carl Lewis that kept banging on the press box, and he was saying that he's faster than Ben Johnson and all the stuff with, how people eat their spinach, how Ben Johnson eats a lot of spinach. Maybe he was right, but some people thought that Carl Lewis ate spinach too. That's why he was fast. But it was just Carl Lewis' opinion, and everybody has opinions without opinions. It's a pretty sad date when people just sit up and quote the facts. Number 7, the Tampa Bay Rays. Last year, I believe it, and I'm glad they changed up the pitcher because he was unhittable, and they pulled him in the 7th because of the manager's opinion to pull him, Big C. But the Dodgers appreciated his opinion because based on his opinion to pull a guy they couldn't hit, the Dodgers went on to win that game in the World Series, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, that opinion actually came from the general manager who was working with analytics. The manager wanted to leave him in, but he kind of called from higher up that based on analytics, it's time to pull him, and it cost the Rays the World Series.
Yeah, it's Tampa Bay Rays. It was just a different opinion that caused it, and opinions make a difference in everybody's life, and that's the judge's opinion. The judges rule based on their opinion of the facts, and everybody needs to know that too. Number 8, the Milwaukee Brewers. Everybody's talking about where's touchdown Aaron Rodgers going to go. Is touchdown Aaron Rodgers going to play for the Raiders? Is he going to play for the Denver Broncos? Or will he stay in Green Bay? But while they're talking about them, Milwaukee Bucks are in the NBA Finals, and the Milwaukee Brewers are ranked number 8 right now in Major League Baseball. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, they have some former All-Stars in their lineup, Charlton, and if they get hot, they can raise havoc in that division.
Yeah, they can raise havoc. And I don't know if you said raise or graze, but it's all fair at level 1. The great Jackie Gleason is everybody sounds a lot taller on the radio. Number 9, the city by the bay may be just about to lose another pro franchise, Big C. They had the Oakland Invaders back in the day. I believe they were part of the USFL. And then the Oakland Raiders decided they liked it better down in Las Vegas, where what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas unless you're some famous athletes. And now they'll say it ain't so because the Oakland Raiders are talking about the city of Oakland. They don't want to put up the nearly $1 billion to have a team built, new stadium built near the waterfront in Oakland. And there's probably more people with billions of dollars down in Las Vegas that can build a beautiful state-of-the-art stadium than haggling with the Oakland City Council in Alameda County about will you give us $1 billion when a lot of your schools are run now, but still number 9, Big C, your thoughts?
Well, I can understand the city, Charlton, not wanting to put money forth to a professional franchise anymore, especially when an owner is a billionaire. They don't want to put the bill themselves, and you got a city that's struggling financially.
Yeah.
The A's have been a mainstay there in Oakland for many years. They brought World Series and many All-Star and playoff appearances to that city.
Yeah, they have. The OJs, for the love of money. Some people got to have it. Oh, yeah, some people, they really need it, and others really don't need it. And Oakland's saying, take your billions and put it where the Jackie Gleason was trying to wipe his backside back and Smoking the Bandit. They're not going to be fleeced for a new stadium. A lot of people fight in Vegas anyway. Even if they go out of the Coliseum, somebody else will come, and that's the city of Oakland. Final Big C, the Toronto Blue Jays come in at number 10. And for old Canada, you haven't been excluded from America's top 10 teams. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, actually, they're an American team, Charlton. They haven't been able to go home. They've been a road warrior all season long, and for a team to play that well, being on the road every game is a pretty good feat. Yeah,
it's all fair and level. We're wishing everybody best for the All-Star game. The pitch, hit deep, right field, back to the wall, home run! The girls love the long ball, and men love hit the deep. It's all fair and level, where we'll see more of what happens tomorrow night in Major League Baseball game. Remember, someone's going to manifest the win, and that's just an opinion, but they will manifest the win. In the words of the great Arnold Schwarzenegger, I saw the movie Terminator over the weekend, and my favorite scene is when he went out of the police station and he drove his car before he drove his car back into the station. He told the sergeant, he said, I'll be back. And we'll do the same thing on the Big C Sportscast. We'll be back. All right, we are back from the Big C Pause, also known as the Big C Timeout. I'll be back. You can follow Big C Sports 24 hours a day, 7 days a week on the #1 podcast network in the universe, iHeartRadio podcast. You can follow Big C Sports on Apple Podcasts. You can follow Big C Sports on Google Podcasts. There's so many apps you can follow them, and I really do appreciate the way things have grown with Big C Sports. I also want to say thank you to Xfinity Comcast TV and Comcast Spotlight for presenting Big C Sports to the universe. Just like in Genesis 1:3, God said, let there be light. Open your cell phones and say play. Big C Sports Podcast. You will see all of our apps pop up, and I really do appreciate the way things have grown with Big C Sports. And, you know, speaking of how things grow, and speaking of how you manifest things, last night, the Milwaukee Bucks that have been written off by so many people, including yourself, Big C, when the playoffs began, and one of the most criticized men in the universe is the great King Giannis Antetokounmpo. And not only is he climbing Mount Rushmore of NBA Finals, he brought Milwaukee their first Finals win since 1974, and I believe that's 46 years ago. Big C, your thoughts?
Yeah, it's been some time since Milwaukee's been in the finals. Ironically, you think about the Milwaukee Bucks and the Phoenix Suns, they came into the NBA in the same year.
Wow.
And both of those franchises were determined their destiny by a coin flip that year in the draft when it was for Lou Alcindor.
Yeah.
Lou Alcindor went to the Milwaukee Bucks because they won the coin flip. The Phoenix Suns ended up with Neil Walk at center.
Yeah.
So both of those players had outstanding careers. It's just Kareem Abdul-Jabbar made history in the NBA. But Giannis played an outstanding past two games in the playoffs. I mean, he's gone into rarefied air, having, a 40-point game in each one of the last two games.
Yeah.
Showing no ill effects from the knee injury that he's had, leading the Milwaukee Bucks to their first victory since 1974 at home.
Yeah, that's amazing. I guess there were some good wines made back in 1974, but they've improved on wines and cars, if that makes sense to you, back in the 70s. Big C, the great King Giannis, and I got a bone to pick with our mainstream media, especially our white media broadcasters, and I'll bring it up in a minute. It's very touching and poignant to me. Giannis, king, you get it? King Giannis. He's acknowledged as a king by Big C Sports Show, that's black owned. The white people call him a freak. They don't call their own kids freaks. They don't call the guy down in Luka Doncic a freak. They don't call Luka a freak. They don't call Tom Brady the white freak. They don't call any of our white athletes white freaks. But there was a basketball player in Milwaukee. This is why it's so important to me, Big C. And people might think, oh, Charlton is just a name. If it's just a name, call the judge a freak. If it's just a name, what do the officers say about the basketball player in Milwaukee that was thrown to the ground and detained because he went in to get some cough syrup in his Escalade a couple years ago, and all of that caused them to look at him as a freak, Big C. They didn't see him as an African-American man or an American. They saw a tall black man. They said, well, he's kind of a freak of nature. The guy's a freak. So how do we get away with our white women broadcasters on television? No one looks at them as they bleach their hair and call them freaks. That's not normal to come out and put dye in your hair that may cause whatever issues. They're not called freak. None of our broadcasters are white male broadcasters, and some of the black guys too, which is really a tragedy. They were calling a freak. He's such a freak. He's a freak of a person. The freak did his thing. And isn't that what law enforcement said before they shoot black guys 5 times in the back? Big C, he's a freak and we're afraid of him. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, I'm going to throw a little injection to you and manifest some things on you here. How well do you know Bay Area sports?
A lot.
How well do you know the San Francisco Giants?
I know them as well as anybody.
Okay, so which player on the San Francisco Giants was called the freak?
No one that I know of.
Tim Lipscomb. His entire career as pitcher, 5'11", 170 pounds. Could throw a 98-mile-an-hour fastball. They called him a freak his entire career because he could do that. He was an all-star player with the San Francisco Giants at pitchers. Pitched there for a decade. NFL. Which NFL player was called a freak?
Okay, you got to tell me because I don't listen to that kind of stuff.
I'm going to give you this. He was an all-star player also. Javon Curse, Tennessee Titans, defensive end out of University of Florida. All-pro NFL defensive end, even appeared in the Super Bowl versus the Los Angeles Rams. His nickname was the freak, utilized through that and through the entire media. I mean, those 3 players have all been called a freak. Tim Lipscomb, who was white with the San Francisco Giants, Javon Curse, who was black with the Tennessee Titans, and Giannis Antetokounmpo, who is Greek African, because he's not African American, so he would be considered Greek African, and he's been labeled that by the media. So he hasn't been the first professional athlete to be an all-star player and carry that title. I can understand your reservations about it, but you have to know the history of it also when you utilize that more than black players have been called under that handle.
So let's just call them the N-word and get to that because that's been used a lot too.
I'm okay calling myself the N-word. I do it all the time. But what I'm saying is that it has not been, used just for Giannis Antetokounmpo. That, Javon Curse utilized that name in the in the late 90s and
What-
early 2000s.
what color is
Tim
Javon
Lipscomb
Kearse?
used it in the early 2000s with the Giants. And
What-
so it's been out there in sports. It's just not Giannis.
What colors is the football player Javon Kearse, Big C?
He's black. Tim Lipscomb is white. Tim Lipscomb is white. He was a pitcher for the San Francisco Giants for a decade. All-star pitcher. And a Cy Young Award winner also. And every time he was said on a sports broadcast, even the San Francisco media called him the freak, as well as the national media called him the freak.
So you're saying the Kerner Commission was wrong when they said that black and white people have different experiences in this country?
I'm not talking about the current commission. I'm talking about names, nicknames that athletes have used and gone by. And even Giannis, if you ask Giannis said he's proud to carry that handle.
Yeah, a lot of rappers are proud to carry that handle too until they're pulled over by law enforcement, and they
But
also.
Giannis said he is proud to be called that. I'm just saying what Giannis said.
Okay. Well,
And I can understand your animus about it, but, I got to go with Giannis, what he said.
okay. So I'm gonna call you the freak, Big C.
I'm proud.
Okay. Well, you're the freak from now on, and I hope that everybody uses that name when they describe you and your children as freaks, especially the judge or school teachers. You just told them that we're going to take the dumbest part of society and we're going to buy into it. That's what slave owners called black people before they lynched them. But everybody has their own opinion. It's just an opinion. But I'm going to have my opinion because I'm around African-American kids in the AAU circuit. A lot of these boys are 15, 16, 17, 18 years old. And many of the black kids, they have different experiences than the white kids, especially when they're at the malls and they're being rounded up and questioned because they look like freaks. But Big C says it's okay, because a couple of guys say they like being called a freak. But when they're detained and arrested at 10 times to 1 of white kids, I guess law enforcement doesn't look at black and white the same. So when they use the term white freak, you don't get arrested or followed by law enforcement. But look at all those black freaks, they must be up to something. And I hate that even dumb black guys have turned to what Slave Master told them, that you're a bunch of black freaks, you N-word, and they say it behind closed doors. Maria Taylor just got some issues that was brought out at ESPN. Rachel Nichols said some things about her. She didn't call it the N-word, but a lot of the things were based on belittling somebody. And the same thing that happens, too many African Americans belittle each other. But the shame in it, and it's just my opinion, because I believe in guys like Jesse Jackson. I believe in what Dr. Martin Luther King said. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. never called black people a freak. He never said that. He talked about equality. Jesus Christ never called black people freaks. All life came from Africa. But what people don't understand is that if you're a young black kid or a young black person, if you use the N-word in your rap music and you use it 50 times, you become a millionaire. If you call a black person a king or a prince, they don't even sign you, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, I mean, we're talking about athletes versus life in a situation.
It is
in
life.
An AAU game has no parallel to what's going on in somebody's nickname in the NBA, NFL, or Major League Baseball. All of these kids that you're talking about that have this name, that are professional athletes now, they all played those sports as youth. And it did not change their perspective as far as to getting where they go. A lot of what happens in life is what the parents do and don't do for kids. We can always blame society. Society has a major role in the rearing of kids also. But the parents have the more major role in the rearing of kids. If you're not aware of what your kids are doing on a daily and an hourly basis, then problems will occur that you don't know anything about, and problems will follow that. But in the bigger picture of all those things, it comes down to adult rearing, period.
Well, before we move on, and I'll say to every black person that can relate to this, as you look at the number of Black Lives Matters and say her name, Breonna Taylor, or George Floyd, or anybody else has been tragically shot, and law enforcement said, well, he was menacing, he was strong, and we were afraid for our lives. Rodney King, we just had in Milwaukee, that white kid that went down the street, shot 2 people, and the police officers gave him water. But they look at the black guy, and they arrest a basketball player. There's also, we know George Floyd was choked out for 9 minutes, because people have gotten accustomed to looking at, look at that big black freak. Oh, he look at all those big muscles.
Let me ask you this one question, Charlton. Yeah. And all police shootings are appalling. No person should deal with that. Do you know how many black Americans were shot in America last week?
No.
296. You know how many of those shootings were by police officers?
No.
0. You know how many shootings were done by black people?
How many?
296. 296 black Americans were shot last week by black Americans. No police officers, black Americans. At what point did we hear Black Lives Matter from any of those people that said, okay, that's all right? 76 of them were killed, Charlton. 76 black people lost their lives at the hands of black people in America. I'm all about Black Lives Matter, but I'm also about the reality that black people kill more black people than anybody else, and it needs to stop. That's the most appalling thing that we have in black society. Yes, we use the moniker Black Lives Matter, but it's going to need to matter to black people more than it matters to white people, because if they unify in that, then maybe they can stop the police from doing it if they care about themselves. I witnessed here in the city that I live in, 2 15-year-old black girls shoot a security guard because he asked them to leave the mall because they were going in to commit a robbery. They were 15-year-old black girls. They pull a gun on the guy. It's on video. They kill a man, and he didn't pull a gun on him. He was just asking them to leave the mall that they could not come in. They decided to kill him. Also this past week, 2 black children, 1 4, 1 8, were killed in road rage driving on the freeway in the back seat of their parents' car. They were shot by black people, Charlton, not police, black people. These are the things we never hear about on the national news. Sometime you might want to Google it. All the black kids that get killed every day in America, not by the hands of black people, but not by the hands of police, but by the hands of black people. Black lives do matter, but they gotta matter to black people more than they matter to anybody else.
Well, I guess if you're okay with them being called freaks, it's okay to kill a freak, isn't it, Big C?
I would rather have a black person called a freak than see a 4-year-old black child shot in the back seat of their parents' car by some black freak that pulled a gun because they had road rage. That's the problem in America.
Well, the problem is how, and maybe you don't understand.
So you're saying you would rather go after the media for calling an athlete a freak than going after some black person for shooting a 4-year-old black child in the back seat of their parents' car. You would rather go after the media for calling an athlete a freak versus these 2 black girls who shot a black security guard, Charlton, in the chest because he told them they couldn't come in the store and rob it. You would rather go after the media for calling a black athlete a freak for a guy when a black woman told a patron of the store that he had to go out and go get his mask. He said, I'll be right back. He goes out to his car, comes in, and shoots this black clerk at the counter and 2 other patrons in the store because she told him to wear a mask. So, I guess I would be more upset over an athlete being called a freak than black people losing their lives from other black people during heinous acts for no reason.
I think your narrative is...
No, my narrative is just like yours. When you're more concerned about an athlete being called a freak versus black people being killed by black people, and we want to point a finger as a culture to the cops. I don't like the cops killing people, Charlton, but, if the cops are sitting there and they have a tough job. There's a lot of good police officers. There's a couple of bad police officers. But there's a lot more bad people on the street than there are bad police officers. I watched another incident in New York where a guy was running from another guy. Black guy getting shot at by another black guy. He knocks over 2 kids, a 5-year-old and a 10-year-old, brother and sister, and tries to hide behind these kids as a shield while the other guy is shooting at him. He would rather sacrifice this African-American boy and girl that were 5 and 10 years old than face the other goon that he was dealing with. He didn't care about black lives. He only cared about protecting himself from another gang member.
Well, number one, I have the same sentiments that I hate seeing anyone being hurt. But for you to say erroneously that I approve of that shows that's an ignorant statement. And people make ignorant statements, but it's not based on fact, it's based on ignorance that you would say that.
As I say, I'm not a very smart person.
I know you're not, because you just revealed that you're not a very smart person, but you revealed that you're a very judgmental person, which is my opinion, and that's foolish. I don't believe that anyone should be harmed. I speak about violence and not doing violence on every show. I've never been arrested. I've never had anyone accuse me of a crime, and not everybody can say that in my position. But I will say this. If you and anybody else realize what I just told you, the Kerner Commission was over 50 years ago. When you label a group of people as monsters and freaks, well, let me finish. Let me finish, if you don't mind. I know being paused and being paused for somebody else is not fair. I listened to you talk for 2 minutes. I didn't say anything. I just want 30 seconds, if that's fair. If we don't stop the saying the negative things that's programming, the in this, in that, and rap music, that's produced by black Americans, but it's mainstream allows you to get rich if you sing about denigration of your own race. Read the souls of black folks, W.E.B. Du Bois, Big C. Everybody has a meaning with words. Words like, how do you manifest things? We talked about how do you manifest things. If you tell your own children at birth, you're a freak, you're an N-word, you're a this, you're a blippity-blip that, they're going to manifest that garbage, Big C. That's why I want to call Giannis the King Giannis, not the freak. Don't call him a freak unless every white person's called freak because they control the media. They don't call that to their own children. They play them Beethoven. That's my opinion. I don't condone any violence. And to prove that I've never been arrested for a violent act, and not everybody can say that. It's all fair in love and war, and that's my opinion. I do want to run to the Olympics. The United States fell in its first pre-Olympics exhibition game in Nigeria. It was 90-87, and that game happened on Saturday night. And not one of these guys was called freak by the announcers. They were just called their names, even though most of them are African American. It was Team USA's first time playing together in its current form, and there appears to still be some kinks to work out. According to head coach Greg Popovich, 5-time NBA champion, never been called a freak. He's called coach, championship coach. But they lost to Nigeria, who's coached by the Warriors assistant, former Cleveland Cavaliers, and Lakers head coach Mike Brown, who's not called freak. He's called head coach Mike Brown, a 28.5-point underdog coming into that game. Big C, your thoughts?
I mean, the NBA, when you think about the Olympic team, I mean, you got 15 NBA players that are supposed to be the greatest. They can go out and win an all-star game, but they can't go out and win an exhibition game, Charlton, against the Nigerian team. Yes, the Nigerian team has 5 NBA players, but they got 10 players that are not NBA players.
Yeah.
And they still went out and dominated these guys. And so when you look at this team, they have to stop being selfish. They have to learn how to play team-oriented basketball because the rest of the world, for the most part, has spent most of the team together.
Yeah.
These guys have just come together, so they're going to have to learn how to gel quickly.
Yeah, they got to gel quickly. But, it's like in life, every day you're not going to win at life. Sometimes you learn more from a loss than you do from winning all the time. It's all fair and love and war. And speaking back to that, too, as far as none of them being called freaks, congratulations, Nigeria. Basketball is growing all over the world. In fact, it's growing all over the universe. It's a game that everybody loves. Over the last 2 games, Giannis, I'm going to call him King Giannis. I know some people hate that when black men edify other black men, all life began in Africa, according to Dr. Leakey and Gregory Mendel. But I'm going to call him King Giannis because he looks a lot like my son. And if someone calls my son a freak, I want to go to that school and talk to somebody. And they say, well, black people do it too. Damn with that. I'm tired of the ignorant people running society. Dr. King never called black people freaks, Big C. But King Giannis, he's converted an absurd 23 of 25 shots. That's 92% within 6 feet of the basket that you had talked about. The Phoenix Suns are 20 of 39, and that's 51% in that same area. Maybe Milwaukee's learned something, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, I've stated this throughout the playoffs with the Milwaukee Bucks. When you got 3 guys that are 6'10" and up, then you can play them all in the lineup together. And when you're in the paint, you dominate. Giannis is the most gifted big man in the NBA since Shaquille O'Neal.
Yeah.
But Giannis watch highlight shows like everybody else. And when he sees Dame Lillard, he sees Steph Curry, he sees Bradley Beal, he sees Kevin Durant.
Yeah.
They all launching it from 3. Well, I want to go out there and be like those guys that are on the highlight reel that I'm watching, instead of playing to his number one strength, and that's inside the paint, which it spoke within the statistics you just gave. When Giannis plays in the paint, there's no one more dominant than him. We talked about DeAndre Ayton shooting at 72% for the playoffs in the paint, for, setting an NBA record. And he'll most likely end up with that record by the time that the playoffs is over.
Yeah.
But if Giannis took a page from DeAndre Ayton, he would be the best player hands down every night in the game like he was when he was back-to-back MVP.
Yeah.
He needs to grow up, stop shooting the threes, go live in the paint, and average 40 points a game.
He has to manifest in the paint. He has to manifest if that's what he wants to do, winning a championship. You got to manifest it. And King Giannis Antetokounmpo, a good-looking, intelligent black man that's never been in trouble, and they take the most pristine of black men and they call him a freak, and I hate that. King Giannis, is the second player in NBA history to record back-to-back games of 40-plus points and 10-plus rebounds in the NBA Finals. The great Shaquille O'Neal, Big C, put up 43 points, 19 rebounds in Game 1, and 40 points and 24 rebounds of Game 2 in the 2000 NBA Finals. Now, he was King Shaquille O'Neal, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, Shaquille O'Neal did not take a three-point shot from the arc at any point during that.
Yeah.
He was scoring those points in the paint. He was scoring those points from within 15 feet from the basket.
Yeah.
He understood his role and where he could dominate the game, and he had no equal. Giannis needs to do that. He needs to manifest, as you would say, into that role and recognize that. And Budenholzer needs to understand it as a coach, which I've had a problem with him throughout the entire playoffs, having these big men and having them want to play outside. I saw Lopez shoot an air ball early in the game from three.
Yep.
He needed to be in, 3 feet from the basket where he could have just rolled it into the rim.
Yeah. You should never hear Giannis 4-3. You shouldn't hear that. You should hear Giannis in the paint, slam dunk. That's how they win a championship. But maybe they don't want to win a championship. They want to win threes. I mean, it's all fair and love and war. Golden State Warriors reportedly, when you talk about 4-3, Curry 4-3, the Golden State Warriors, Big C, reportedly consider a potential destination. And not everybody has their own opinion about this destination, Big C. But they consider for Damian Lillard, if the Portland Trailblazers star is traded this offseason, I think that would be the worst mistake they would make. Just by what we just talked about. I like Dollar Dame's game, but it's not for a team that wants to win a championship. It's for a team that wants to be on SportsCenter and is not mutually exclusive, Big C. The Warriors could offer perhaps the best package in a trade, headlined by James Wiseman, who plus the number 7 and number 14 picks in the 2021 draft. The team would also add Andrew Wiggins and future first-rounders to complete a deal. Golden State won 3 championships in 5 years by not having Dollar Dame on the team. They had players that could pound the ball down inside and kick it out to Curry and Klay Thompson to win championships. If you got 3 shooters and no one to get rebounds or to be a threat, that's not what they need, Big C. Your thoughts? My opinion.
Well, they had 3 shooters when they had Kevin Durant on the team. And you had other guys that were doing the dirty work. Draymond Green did it, as well as Andre Iguodala doing the dirty work for the Warriors. So they had 3 shooters in that lineup. Kevin Durant was not blocking shots. He was not sweeping the boards when he was with the team. They had other players that played those roles. Looney played that role for a time also.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the NBA is all about shooters nowadays. I mean, in the way that the Warriors' offense is structured, he would be a better fit in the lineup. And who knows what Klay Thompson is going to be after returning, after a knee injury as well as an Achilles injury. These are 2 major leg injuries that, players that they can come back. But will he be 100%? And then how long can he last even at that point?
Yeah,
I think if Dollar Dame was incorporated into that lineup, you'll see these guys play equal balanced roles that, you could not lock down one because you could go to that 3-guard offense and you got Draymond Green and you put one other decent-sized man in the middle where they just brought Looney back.
Yeah.
You can run with that lineup in the NBA.
Yeah, but you run yourself out of the playoffs, and we've seen that happen before. You run yourself right out of the playoffs, and that's just my opinion. Look at Brooklyn. They had some 3 shooters, and they got beat by a guy that scored 40 points last night and in the last 2 games because you need a big man. Just my opinion. Dallas Mavericks think Jamal Mosley, their next head coach, and this will be Mosley's first head coaching gig, Big C, after being an assistant in the league for the Mavericks, the Cavaliers, and the Nuggets since 2005. He spent the past 7 years as an assistant under Mavs coach Rick Carlisle and was elevated to associate head coach during that time. And when you think about it, Big C, he became defensive coordinator for the Mavericks in the last few years and coached Dallas Summer League for 3 summers, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, that's the Orlando Magic that made him the head coach, Charlton, and this is going to be his first run in the NBA. And I'm glad what the NBA has done this year, giving some first-time guys, Charlton, head coaching positions. We've seen so many older guys move laterally around in the NBA, but they can't identify with these young players socially or even ethically in understanding their backgrounds and what the social atmosphere is now. I think as a coach, you got to be as much as a social advocate, Charlton, as you do as a head coach.
Yeah.
You got to be a babysitter, and you got to understand the plight of society and these individuals.
Yeah.
More than just the X's and O's of what we've seen in the past. And so with all of these young players and all these guys dealing with their own social platforms, Charlton, you need a coach that understands that more now than any other time.
Yeah, it's all fair love and war. Everybody has an opinion on who's going to help them win. And I wish them nothing but the best. Speaking of winning, I got 2 more things I want to cover. Again, we should not be at odds, but we don't have to agree, and there's nothing wrong with that. I just say be factual. The 2 big men dominate in the NBA, and they're in the NBA Finals, and they did not have the best record going into it with Phoenix and Ayton, and also King Giannis and the Milwaukee Bucks. But Conor McGregor is an absolute marketing genius. They don't call him a freak. They call him a marketing genius. And I wonder why they don't call him a freak, Big C. He's been in a lot of trouble. but he's also learned to sell like hardly anybody since Don King, Big C. He learned a lot from Floyd Money Mayweather, who's never been called a freak either. Muhammad Ali was not called a freak. And you know Jim Brown was not called a freak. They were respected and loved and admired by people. But Poirier's a better fighter. I don't want to see anyone get hurt, but that's part of the business. It's a hurt business. So you have McGregor with all that talking mess about somebody's wife on his DM. That's classless. But maybe karma caught up to him. But Poirier was going to beat him up anyway. But how does he learn he's lost, I think, 4 of his last 5 fights. And the people keep paying because he's a marketing genius. But at the same time, what will it take for Dana to say, wait a minute, this guy's actually hurting my sport? It's not going to say it as long as people keep paying to see fights last 1 round, Big C, your thoughts?
Well, you can't say that he's hurting the sport when he's making the sport money, and that's what Dana White knows. It's not hard to promote a Conor McGregor.
Yeah.
He has national advertising commercials.
Worldwide.
He's a national name when it comes to the MMA.
Yeah.
And so that's what people fall in love with. Any fan falls in love with something that they can recognize and identify with other than doing their research,
Yeah.
understanding what the factuality of a situation is.
Yeah.
They'll go by the first thing they see and hear and say, okay, that's the fact.
Yeah.
And it's not always the fact. And so Conor McGregor is when you say MMA, that's the first thing that they know about that is Conor McGregor, so they're going to show up.
Yeah. You know, sometimes people look for a train wreck, but they don't call him a freak. They call a man who has a clean background a freak. One's black, one's white, and I don't like it, so I'm going to speak out against it. And I don't count on every black person to say what I say, because not everybody reads, and that's okay too. But I will never let my kids be disrespected that way. This show is sponsored to you by Budweiser Zero. It has 0% alcohol and 100% on your game. It's all fair in Leavenworth. It goes great with the Big C Burger. It is a tasty burger, and it comes with exotic meats. I love everything about what we do in the sports universe, but everybody has an opinion. I want to run down in 2-minute overtime. The most egregious play I've ever seen in the NFL in a Super Bowl was, I think it was 2nd and goal from the 1-yard line, and touchdown Russell Wilson had beast mode in the backfield, and he went by beast mode. That's what he went by, and people might have their own thoughts about that. But you had Lynch, who was the best running back in the NFL, in my opinion. And Wilson turns around and throws it to the end zone. It's intercepted. And people were thinking, what in the world just happened? And that, to me, is a play that will live in infamy. But NFL projected regular season wins, Big C, in the final 2 minutes of our game, unlike the Super Bowl. Don't pass it, Big C. Run it this time. The highest win totals projection, Kansas City Chiefs 15, Tampa Bay Buccaneers 13, along with New Orleans Saints 13 with the great Jameis Winston. Buffalo 12, Baltimore Ravens, Indianapolis Colts 12. Cleveland, Los Angeles Rams, San Francisco 49ers 11, and 10, the Seattle Seahawks and the New England Patriots. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, I mean, it's early on in those projections. I mean, when you look at them, it's hard to think that Kansas City would not win that many games just based on what they've done the last 3 years in the NFL consistently, Charlton, and their offense is still pretty much intact, even though they rebuilt their offensive line.
Yeah.
You got the Tampa Bay Buccaneers coming off a Super Bowl year, and so this is a year of playing together where they had a season last year where they had no preseason, and they still made it to the Super Bowl and won it. I like the New Orleans Saints because that offense is intact other than Drew Brees, but now you bring in a mobile quarterback with a stronger arm and the same receiving core and offensive talent that you've had. This offense should still explode the way they are. But, you know, when you look at the NFL, it's always a turkey shoot. It's about being healthy.
Yeah.
We can always project what the season is going to be, but the injuries will dictate who gets to where as the season continues.
Very well said. The last pass touchdown Jameis Winston threw was a touchdown against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and Peyton said, that's enough. That's not part of the script. And they put him on the sideline to watch Drew get battered around in this last game. Lowest win total for the season in the last half of the 2-minute warning. They're looking at Houston Texans, Jacksonville Jaguars. Trevor Lawrence has a rude awakening, maybe. Detroit Lions, Carolina Panthers, and the New York Say It Ain't So, the Jets. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, you know, I can believe the Jets and the Jaguars having low win totals. They had the first 2 draft picks last year. Teams normally don't improve that much when you have the number 1 overall pick in the draft. You might win 2 or 3 more games than what you won in the previous season, Charlton, prior to that. But, you know, you have a whole rebuilding process that you have to go through. And when you have those rookie quarterbacks, they have to get indoctrinated into the NFL.
Yeah.
The game is going to be faster. the defenses are going to be a lot more tenacious. And those defensive coordinators are a lot smarter than the ones that you faced in college.
Yeah, the great Prince had a song called Emancipation. Maybe he should have sang one called Indoctrination is All Fair and Love and War for the young quarterbacks. NFL kickoff is 59 days away, starting September 9th. 2021 is All Fair and Love and War. There's so much going on in the sports universe. A lot of people are going to be hitting baseball tomorrow up in the beautiful city of Denver, Colorado, Mile High City. It's All Fair and Love and War. I wish everybody nothing but the best. You don't always have to agree, but you do have to rise and shine. Big C, back in the day, there's a man by the name of Drew Boudini Brown. He was known as Muhammad Ali's right-hand man, and he would always tell Ali, you float like a butterfly, you sting like a bee, you rumble, young man, rumble. With all you've got to use, how can you lose? Big C, what are you looking forward to in the sports universe?
Well, the Washington football team announced today, Charlton, that they will have a new nickname in the season 2022.
Wow.
But it will not be the Warriors. They are moving completely away from any name that deals with the Native American heritage. And so that's a proud moment in the nation's capital, Charlton. Once again, I want to thank our frontline healthcare workers, our nurses, doctors, and first responders. They're always there, regardless of what your culture is, to make sure that they can help you out.
It's All Fair and Love and War. Today's show is Manifest. Manifest like your life depends on it, because it does. You can manifest every Monday through Friday at 5 and 6 p.m. worldwide when you follow Big C Sports on the Big C Sports Network, on the #1 network in the United States of America, iHeartRadio podcast, and Big C Sports and all other apps out there. I really appreciate the growth of Big C Sports. As my beautiful mama always says, there's never ever an excuse for racism or domestic violence. If you know any man, woman, or child going through that garbage, please pick up the phone and ask for help, because no man, woman, or child should ever have to go through that garbage on their own. And as we always tell you on every Big C Sports show, we thank you, we appreciate you, and we hope that you have a super fantastic day.